getting longer, darling. We're coming to the end of the road. The real world won't stop calling, but it's not the time to go. It doesn't have to be over. The lights still burn bright at our will. People will come and they'll bathe in the dirt just to find some place to be still. Living ain't just for the hopeful. Sunlight ain't just for the day. Leave all your sins at the table. We can just walk away when the fight is too strong. The sun doesn't shine when you're left with nothing. At the end of the night, and fear starts taking over, and words won't take their shape as you drown out the sound of the darkness around you. Can feel what you're dying to say. Drinking ain't just for the rambler. Courage ain't just for the brave. Leave all your sins at the table. We can just walk away when the fight is too strong. The sun doesn't shine. You're left with nothing. Just hold on to me at the end of the night when the fight is too strong. When the sun doesn't shine, and you're left with nothing. Hold on to me at the end of the night. 'Cause living ain't just for the hopeful. Sunlight ain't just for the day. Drinking ain't just for the rambler. And courage ain't just for the brave. So leave all your sins at the table. Join me in walking away. Leave all your sins at the table. And we can just walk away when the fight is too strong. And the sun doesn't shine. When
So I do hope you enjoyed that. That was another lovely song from Mr. Steve Magora. Of course, Blair Sinter was on drums, and yours truly played some electric guitar and some bass. Now, it was cut at about 123, but if you put it down on a grid, you'll notice it's not gridded. It is a real performance. And why did we do it? Well, we did it because we were testing this. This is the iD14 Mark II. Now, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we tried out the iD4 with another one of Steve's songs. And the main difference of this, well, we can go through it, but the main difference of this, of course, is it has 2 mic pre's in it. So again, great little unit. On the back here, you have 2 mic / line inputs here. The line is in the middle and the mic is on the outside, so that's great there. There is a left and right out here to go to your speakers, but there's also another separate left and right, so you could set up, well, you could set up another system, but probably most importantly, you could go to a headphone amp, stereo headphone amp. You've got an optical input, which is freaking awesome, and of course it's USB-C as well. You can also use an adapter, so if you don't have a USB-C, you can go into a straightforward USB input. On the front, of course, you have the controls for the mic line inputs. You've got phantom on-off. Got an overall volume here. I like it's detented, so it means I can recall it easily if I've got certain positions. Completely wonderful. You've got mute, speakers on and off, headphones on and off. Now this ID setting, if you remember we were talking about before, is you can use this to assign a certain function. And you can decide what function you want that to be, like a quick key. On the front, you've got headphones. It looks like they've got a mini jack output there, as well as a 1/4 inch, which is awesome. How many times have you lost your adapter? Now you have to worry about it. You can still use it. And then, of course, another feature which a couple of people asked me about is an actual DI input, because obviously a guitar input is different to a line input. Line would be from, a line source. This is great for a direct inject, a DI from a guitar. Built really well, some good weight to it, metal casing. Not that I think it matters, because of course the Evo has a plastic casing and is super, super inexpensive. And, who throws their interface around? But I do like, that this is a more expensive unit and they've gone with the metal casing. And once again, I like the gunmetal gray. Look, we've been using Audient now for several years and they've always delivered. So don't forget, you can win one of 3 of these. There is a link down below here to enter to win one of 3 of these beautiful Audient iD14s. And don't forget, of course, to download the multitrack so you can hear for yourself. But before we do that, let's go over to the rather wonderful Mr. Julian Krauser. If you remember when we did the iD4 review, we went to Julian because he's really smart. And I love to plug stuff in and use it and just kind of prove that really it's just about creativity. That's the only thing holding you back, especially affordable equipment like this. However, Julian is smarter than me, and he tests this stuff with an inch of its life and puts it through its paces. So let's go over to Julian and hear about the specs of the unit.
I understand you want to know how the iD14 Mark II performs objectively. I got just the right thing for you. Hey, Julian here, and let's have a small look at my real-world measurements and see how the iD14 really performs. The frequency response of the mic input is very flat, and that means that all frequencies in the audible range are recorded equally well. The preamp noise with -130.4 dB UA weighted is extremely low, and this allows you to get ultra low noise recordings with pretty much any dynamic microphone. The dynamic range of the mic input is also excellent, and this allows you to leave yourself a nice amount of headroom while recording without introducing any additional noise. This becomes especially useful when you want to record more dynamic sound sources like drums. The line level input performance is really good as well. The frequency response in the audible range is very flat, and you get the same high dynamic range as with the microphone inputs. The total harmonic distortion is at roughly -100 decibels, which means that there is next to no chance that you'll hear any distortion from the line level inputs. So the mic and line level inputs on the iD14 Mark II perform very nicely and allow you to create clean recordings. And the strong showing of the interface continues on the output side. The frequency response of the headphone output is ruler flat, and you also get quite a bit of power to drive more power-hungry headphones. I want to point out that the headphone output only reaches its full volume potential if you use the USB Type-C connection. You can still use the interface with a common USB 2.0 connection, and the volume for most headphones will get decently loud, but if you have more demanding headphones, I highly recommend to use a USB Type-C connection. The iD14 Mark II also features 2 sets of very high performance line level outputs, and like I mentioned in my review, they actually outperformed my measurement equipment, which really shows that Audient values faithful audio reproduction. And I think this goes pretty much for the whole interface. In all my measurements you can see that Audient has set out to build an interface that strives to be transparent, meaning it does not color your sound and just records and plays back the original audio. If that's something you're looking for in an audio interface, I recommend to have a closer look at the iD14 Mark II. Back to you, Warren.
So let's check out the track. Now, a couple of things. This is not cut to a click. So it's got a guide tempo of 123. But if you've got the tracks by now, you'll notice that they breathe and they do move all over the place. So 2 mics on the drums, and Blair, of course, is a very even drummer, hence the great performance. Sounds fantastic. Here's the kick alone. And here is the overhead. And together. So, in keeping with the fact that the Audient IOs are inexpensive, affordable, it's a better way of describing them, we're going to use comparable mics. So this is a Lewitt 040, which I believe is under $100. So that's the overhead mic. And then we have their entry-level kick drum microphone, bass drum microphone. This is the 340 Rex, which just has the 1 capsule. They have a 640 Rex, which has 2 capsules, just as a single one. So this is going to be the drum sound for the iD14. Just 1 overhead mic and 1 kick drum. Really, the most important thing when you're using minimal amounts of microphones is a really good, balanced performance, which basically means a drummer that doesn't smash the cymbals too hard. You'll get into situations quite often where a drummer is like, kick, snare, kick, snare, smash, 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 smash on the cymbals. The great thing is we do have the rather wonderful Blair Sinter playing drums on this, who is incredibly balanced. But even when you don't have a professional drummer, as it were, the best thing to do is to get them to come into the control room and listen to what you're hearing. So get a performance down, then get the drummer to come in, play back what you've recorded. And frankly, if the cymbals are hit too hard, they will hear it and they will back down. Another thing you can do is put a little bits of tape underneath the cymbals. Sometimes I sneak a bit of tape in there, as I've done on the hi-hat here, something a little less obvious. You can see it, as I actually put a little bit of paper towel on there. Kitchen towel for those of you in the UK. And that just gets rid of some of the extra high end and just dampens down the cymbals ever so slightly. Bit of tape on there. Not a huge amount. I mean, this Istanbul here, for instance, is cracked. And to be honest, it still sounds amazing, and the crack actually reduces a little bit of the volume. We've got tons of really beautiful cymbals, but this is the one that Blair particularly likes. This is really what it's all about. A balanced drummer playing within themselves, balancing out, getting good tom hits, great snare, great kick drum, super defined, and then not smashing their cymbals too hard. The best way to record great drums is to have a great drum performance. Next up, we have bass DI and bass amp. Quite a lot of grit on the amp. Then we've got a guitar amp and guitar DI. And it's a pretty raw performance. I've got reverb on it, but I've also got a spring reverb and the delay, which is the Carl Martin delay, which is printed on the amp. But of course, you also have the DI. So if you want to reamp it and do whatever you like, you can do that. There it is. There's the DI. And then, of course, last but no means least is my lovely, I say that with a little sense of sarcasm, my beautiful, even more sarcastic, student model Baldwin Hamilton piano, which I got for free. It was sitting outside a studio and they said I could take it as long as I could move it. So we did actually find somebody to move it. It's a great piano. It's quirky to say the least, but I think it fits this track because there's 2 mics on drums, bass guitar, electric guitar, piano, lead vocal, backgrounds. If this was the olden days, you'd have all these background vocals here. They'd all be bounced to a stereo pair. Then, of course, there is a lead vocal. So that would be a stereo pair of backgrounds, 1 lead vocal, 3. Stereo pair on the piano, so it's 4, 5. Electric guitar, 6. Bass, 7, 8. And drums, 9, 10. So essentially, it's 10 tracks. Now, obviously, the backgrounds are split up, but it's a very simplistic song. You should have fun mixing this. Of course, like I was saying, it's not really cut to a click. It's pretty loose. It's about 123. But if you want to have some fun with it, please do. The electric in particular is just, a live take. I punched in a couple of mistakes, but it's not heavily edited. So there's a lot of tracks to breathe there, lots of fun to have. And of course, you could put down some percussion. You could replay some guitars. I was thinking about putting acoustics on it, but I kind of like this 2 mics on the drums, bass, electric, and piano feel. Let's have another listen. Here's the outro choruses. It just goes to prove again, it's really about the performances, the song, and the singer. That's more important than anything else. The fact that with this little iD14, we can produce a song as good as this says a lot about the iD14, but it also says a lot about the musicians and everybody that performed on it. Really, there's no excuses not to make great music, except for, the work it takes to do it. We love Audient, and thank you ever so much, Julian, of course, for coming in and helping us out, talking about it. Julian measures this stuff in a way that, I don't. He brings the science to this review. And don't forget, of course, you can enter to win one of 3 of these. We're giving away 3 iD14. So please go down below, click down there. Also download the multi-tracks, mix the song for yourself, and, do some production on it. It is a course called Produce Like a Pro. So we'd love to hear some productions. So don't forget to enter to win down here one of 3 iD14s. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Download the multi-tracks. Talk to you all soon. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, tschüss, adios, adio, goodbye.